Hope is an optimistic feeling that in spite of sometimes difficult circumstances, things will work out in the end, especially if you do more than just wish for it, you work for it. My name is Irene O'Neill, and I share hope because sharing hope, no matter how tiny it starts out, will help it grow in you and whomever you share it with.
Welcome to I Share Hope, the podcast where world leaders share their real stories of hope and how you can use actionable hope to start changing your life today. And now, here's your host, Chris Williams.
Irene O'Neill, I am thrilled. I really am thrilled that you're joining us today because I've read a lot about you. Obviously, never met you face to face, but I've read a lot about the work you do, and I want to explain that again in a minute. Okay, so you're doing in your life of sharing hope, not just around town with people that you hang out with, at a coffee shop, but in your true recovery work, you lead groups that deal with all kinds of issues around bipolar situations. Is that correct?
Well, there's like two aspects of what I do. First of all, my avocation, or what I love and I don't get paid for, is doing the Awakenings Project, which is started 20 years ago, and it involves people with all different diagnoses, and we don't have a litmus test for whether or not you have a mental illness. But if you exhibit with us, then you have to be willing to share your name, your full name, and not try to hide behind anonymity. So that's the art project that I'm involved with. And the other thing is I work for the DuPage County Health Department as a psychosocial rehabilitation specialist, which means I do classes. I'm not trained as a therapist. I am a person who has lived experience of mental illness myself. So I'm sharing my own experience and listening to others' experience. And I love the group dynamic.
I bet. As being someone on the recipient side, as part of many groups for lots of things, I have totally been blessed, I don't know how else to say that, by people like you who've been brave enough to lead groups. So thank you on behalf of many people listening, I'm sure.
Oh, well, thank you for finding me.
Yeah, that's a privilege. So let's do this, Irene. Let's pretend we're in a huge group, and as small or big as you want to pretend it is. Right now, it's just you and me talking, but I know that I'm not the only one listening here. So let's do this kind of as a group setting, but let us get to know you and how you feel, believe, think, etc. about the topic of hope, because anybody going through any tough phase of life struggles sometimes with maybe hanging on to hope, wondering if it's real. And if it is real, is it actually something we can do with it in our own lives? Is it actionable? Can we move on hope? So I'd love to ask you the 5 questions that we ask all the participants in our global survey about hope. So can I jump in there and do this?
Okay.
All right. Question 1, and I think you have these questions in front of you, so you answer them your way, not anybody else's way. This is about you. Question 1 is, what is your favorite quote about hope, or your definition of hope?
My favorite quote is from the Emily Dickinson poem, "Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all." My philosophy, or my kind of definition, is why look somewhere over the rainbow when you can find happiness right here under the rainbow by looking up? Hope is an optimistic feeling that in spite of sometimes difficult circumstances, things will work out in the end, especially if you do more than just wish for it, you work for it.
Wow. Those are really good statements. I've never heard that part of that poem before.
Oh.
Will you read that one more time?
Okay. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all.
That's perfect. So leading into question 2 then, who has shared that kind of hope with you?
I think all of the artists of the Awakenings Project. There are many who were with us right from the very beginning in 1996, and those who joined forces with us along the way and are still joining us now, especially the young ones who I hope will carry the project on even after the founding members no longer can, because we're getting up there in years.
Oh, no. So tell me then about the Awakenings Project. So if the people in this project have given you hope, what is the Awakenings Project?
It's an art project that helps develop artists who have a mental illness to, learn their craft, to hone their craft. We kind of mentor each other and help each other grow in artistic ways. But it's not just visual art. It's also a literary journal that we produce called the Awakenings Review, in which we get submissions from people from all over the country and all over the world. And we have to review them and choose the best and make an anthology. And we've done that almost every year since the year 2000. So we have, I think, 14 journals that we've created. And we also have a little music development project where we made one CD. It was a combination of music and poetry. And we also have a little bit of a drama group going on. Our founder, whose name is Robert Lundeen, he goes to Chicago Dramatists and the Victory Gardens Theater Access Project for people with disabilities. And he has written several plays and is really still hoping to get one of them produced.
That's really amazing. That's a really cool group.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking at some of your art online right now. It's beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
It is beautiful. This Victim to Victor is really, really gorgeous and powerful.
Yeah.
You did that a while
I'm
ago,
also, it's sold. So my husband gets mad at me when I sell art because he's like, oh, we don't have very much art by you around the house anymore. People are buying it. Art's a hard sell, though, because people would rather, spend money on electronics or something like that they can, use rather than just something that's hanging on the wall.
Well, if anybody out there is wondering if they should buy art or electronics, just think about how long it'll be with you, and art will be with you a long time. But your iPhone will crack. All right. Question 3, Irene. Tell us about a time in your life. Take us back and paint a picture for us and take us into that picture when you really needed hope. And how did you work through something difficult?
Well, when I was first diagnosed with a mental illness in 1976, I felt completely hopeless and helpless to do anything about it. Because the doctors at the time would say, well, this is a chronic progressive illness. You're going to be on medication for the rest of your life. And I thought my life was over at the time. I thought, I dropped out of school. I left my job. I didn't think I could handle anything. And I just felt like I had no idea that I could get better, that there's such a thing as recovery. And some people get to the point where they don't even need medication anymore. I still take medication, but I also use other wellness tools to help me stay well. That's part of a WRAP. It's called Wellness Recovery Action Planning, which is developed by someone named Mary Ellen Copeland, who's really well known in the mental health recovery world because she kind of changed the whole way of looking at things. And when I met Robert Lundeen, that was 20 years ago, he had come up with the idea for Awakenings, and I was slowly regaining hope. And I thought that I had missed the whole planning meeting because I was in the hospital at that time. And when I got out, I said, is there still anything I can do? And so 20 years later, we're still doing it. It was going to be one weekend, one art show, the NAMI conference.
That's great. I love it. So glad you asked what you could do. And I'm so glad you stayed with it. So,
yeah, me too.
Are there a lot of people out there with bipolar?
I think it's like 1.5% of the population. I'm not real sure on that stuff, but there are many diagnoses that people have depression, people who have bipolar, people who have schizoaffective disorder or schizophrenia. We have artists with every diagnosis, anxiety, OCD. We don't label anybody. Like people sometimes use that in their art, and then it's obvious what they're dealing with. But other than that, some people's art is just fantastic. And it's not a reflection of suffering or anything. It's a reflection of the joie de vivre, the joy of life.
Yeah. So I think you're bringing up a good point. The labels that people put on different types of mental illness, we'll just stay in that category instead of going any broader. Tell me, so someone who's been back and forth down that road and didn't get a diagnosis, but I really thought I was going to, and it scared me really bad because I was all of a sudden worried about labels and what does it do to my career and what does it do to, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
what do you tell somebody on the outside of the mental illness conversation looking in? How do you wish people would respond? What's okay to ask? What's not okay to ask? How do you embrace somebody the right way who's just found out or is known for a while that they have some kind of mental illness they have to work on?
I don't know. I don't think any question is off limits. And just knowing that you're not alone is really important, because a lot of times people isolate themselves, and then that's where the hope diminishes and people, start to think that the world becomes smaller and smaller. But, really we need more acceptance. I know I just saw like Demi Lovato was going to be on the Democratic National Convention, and she's really open about having bipolar disorder, and she's really a famous singer, and she's young, and she's, so I want people to be able to relate to one another. When famous people, like Mike Wallace talked about his depression, and just a lot of people, Kay Redfield Jamison, the one who wrote the book Touched with Fire, and, people write their own autobiographies. And I just wish everybody would just accept it, like as if, we are not our illnesses. We have an illness. Like I have bipolar disorder. I have toenail fungus, but I'm not toenail fungus.
Right. It's a great way to say that.
I think.
So a good answer. Thank you. I like hearing that insight, because a lot of times, even the most well-meaning people who are outside of any issue, if it's, oh, my neighbor is getting a divorce, or, oh, my friend's dog died, or my, aunt just got diagnosed with this illness, whatever it is in their life. If you're not the one dealing with the problem, sometimes you're afraid to address the problem and reach into somebody's life and say, hey, love you, and I'm here. And we don't know how to do that, unfortunately, well enough as a society. So I'm glad you're helping us.
Oh, thanks.
So question 4 is, how are you sharing hope with people today? You've already talked about some of the groups you're doing, but get outside of the group for a second and outside of your art for a minute. How do you share hope when you're hanging out in your house or with your friends or family, neighbors, whatever it may be?
I have the hardest time with my husband, because his mantra is hope brings disappointment. Whenever he's hoping for something and it doesn't happen, he's disappointed.
Oh.
Yeah, and he really believes this, and he can't change his opinion. But he respects the fact that I am an optimist and I have hope, and he's more pessimistic. And, opposites attract.
Yes, they do. I understand that. So how do you encourage him to be a little more hopeful, or is it possible? I'm actually not picking on him. I'm kind of wired like he is. So that's helpful for me to hear. It's hard, because sometimes when we do hope for things and they don't work out, we can be disappointed. So, sometimes people think it's better not to get our hopes too high, because then if they aren't met, then we feel dashed. But some people are like, expect the worst. And then if it doesn't happen, hey, that's great. But I don't know. I just feel like actually we create this energy by having hope and by being optimistic and looking forward, and that it'll help things to happen if we work at them. Yeah. I really am learning that there's a balance there. There really is. Because I've had my hopes dashed enough to not want to hope anymore. That's why I'm doing the project. I'm doing this not because I share hope, because I'm hoping people like you do who will talk to me, because I want to learn how to do this. And I was telling somebody on one of the teams that I work on this past week for work, not for this I share hope thing, but for work. And they were saying, I feel like this is really going to be a great thing. I really feel like this is going the right direction. And I responded, I'm afraid maybe coldly, with, I don't hope in feelings, I hope in data. So let's get some data, and then I'll decide where I think this is going. And I know what that coworker was saying and meaning, but I'm pretty skeptical, and I feel the same way sometimes, but I'm learning to be balanced and that there are relationships, and there are situations, and there are communities. And often it's the people to people stuff that, if chosen well and trusted slowly and intentionally, that you can start to hope and start to warm up to really hoping that things will go the right way, because you're going to have the support in the team. And if a disappointment does come, you'll have the backup support you need. And it's possible,
Yeah, anything's possible.
That's a great statement right there too. That's a really hopeful one. And I'm learning to believe that that's honestly, I think kind of true. And as I look back at history and what people have accomplished, I think there's some reality to that. Yeah. Okay. Question 5. How can I grow in hope or start sharing hope more? So give me some simple ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s of what I can do when we hang up this phone call.
Okay. I think that, whether you believe it or not, that things are going to work out the way you'd like, you can inspire other people. Because my neighbor just came over before you called. And I said, oh, I'm so nervous. I don't want to be on this call. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to say. And he said, you inspired me. You inspire hope in other people. And I'm like, okay. Sometimes we don't realize that, and our exuberance, enthusiasm, creativity, even if I'm suffering with my own symptoms, I listen and want to hear about other people's difficulties. And I don't try to give advice. I just try to be a sounding board and, tell them this is what happened for me. You can take it or leave it. This is what I've done in my life that has worked for me. But I don't have answers. I really don't have answers.
That's great advice.
Don't give up.
That's great advice. You just being an open human to share and hear and reciprocate real life.
Mm-hmm.
I think we miss that all too often, especially we spend so much time staring at our phones and get little quips back and forth on social media about how perfect our lives look at the beach, right? When maybe I
wouldn't even get in a bathing suit, so don't ask me that.
But maybe a 20-minute conversation over a cup of coffee is what we all really need, right? Just hang out with somebody else. That's good. I think it's cool, the story you just told too about your neighbor who you have obviously shared hope with and inspired, has just come back and shared hope and inspired you. So you could do the same with us. What a great little circle.
He's just not my neighbor. He's an awakenings artist too.
Oh, cool. See, look at that. All those connections. I love it. I love it. Very cool. So when you're feeling down and out and you just need something to lift your spirits, you're an artist. I just love that. Love talking to artists. So as an artist, what do you do? Do you go out into nature to bring yourself back up to a good place? Do you listen to music? Do you paint? Do you dance? What do you do to bring hope back into your heart when it's just you?
All of the above. All the things you named, but mostly I love to ride my bicycle.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
It makes me feel like a kid again. I ride my bicycle. It's a nice pace. It's walking's too slow, running's too strenuous, but riding a bicycle is wonderful.
That's great. I love it. That's good advice. I have a bike at home in the shed that's a little bit too dusty. I think I'll get that back out and try some more. Thank you.
Great.
Well, Irene O'Neill, how can people keep up with you online? So website, social media, is there anywhere that you kind of tell your story and people could track you down?
I'm certainly not one who spends a lot of time doing that, but I'm the one who maintains our website, which is just www.awakeningsproject.org. And I also update the Awakenings group we have on Facebook and an Awakenings page. Just says Awakenings Project, or the other one is The Awakenings Project, the group. I don't know. It's a little confusing, but if anybody looks us up, they can find something about us somewhere. And then if you get on our website and do the contact us form, it goes directly to me. So I'll get back to you, and if I'm not the right person, I'll connect you with somebody else.
That's really great. That's really helpful. Thank you. So if anybody didn't get all that down, or you're out, riding your bike and listening to the podcast, first of all, watch out for traffic. It's dangerous. Second, at isharehope.com, we'll just look for Irene's name in the interviews section. isharehope.com, look at the interviews tab and look for Irene. And we will have all of her info there so you can find her website, the show notes, quotes from her, anything that would be relevant to this conversation. We'll post it there so you can have easy access to it. Also, if you're more of a fan of social media, Chris Williams HQ is our handle for pretty much all social media. And we'll be talking about Irene and have her info there as well. So awesome conversation, Irene. You obviously are a person who's lived it and taught it. And I love talking to artists and honest people and teachers. And you're so many of those things combined. So thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you. Is this my 15 minutes of fame?
This is way more than 15. What are you talking about? We got 23 minutes of fame right here.
Wow.
Last question, Irene. Have you ever done any voiceover work like audiobooks or anything like that?
No, I thought about, I used to work at the Industrial Home for the Blind in New York, and I thought I would read books for the blind, and I never actually did it.
That was, okay, so that was exactly, I wasn't thinking for the blind, but I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I'm a really bad reader. I don't retain what I see very well. I retain what I hear. So I listen to almost everything. And you have a voice, you would like be an awesome children's book reader. That's what I picture you as. You have this fantastic, kind, gentle voice. It's perfect. So thanks for letting me listen to you for now almost 25 minutes.
No, thank you, Chris, really.
It's been a privilege. Have a great night.
Okay, you too.
Okay, thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've just listened to I Share Hope. If you're ready to make a change, head to our website at isharehope.com and claim your free copy of the Top 10 Actions of Hope from World Leaders to use hope in your own life. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.